Your father didn't believe in revenge.
What if Paul Atreides were still alive?
Hey everybody, I bet you thought you were watching Dune Part 2. Nuh-uh, not today. Today, we're going to be talking about something very specific about Dune Part 2. That is, why? I've seen it 3 times now, and it's just got me really thinking about, man, people really love Dune Part 2. People are really amped about it. It's doing incredible in the box office. Critics love it. Everybody loves it. Why does it work so well? Why is it so successful on all levels? That's what I want to talk about today, and sort of my opinion on that and why I think it works. I think before I dive into why I think Dune Part 2 works, it's important for you to understand how I feel about the movie and sort of my review of it. So here's that. If you don't want to watch it, you can skip to this time code and just hear my thoughts about why I think it works overall in the context of filmmaking. But whatever, it's up to you. Please watch it. Hello and welcome to the Dune 2 Review Zone. The actual movie itself is pretty amazing, I gotta say. I'm gonna do a sort of classic pros and cons style list so we can sort of contrast what works and what doesn't. You know what a pros and cons list is, don't you? Don't you little baby? You little stupid nincompoop? Okay, let's start with the pros. On a technical level, Dune Part 2 is like a literal masterpiece. CGI, impeccable. Cinematography, impeccable. Soundtrack, sound design. This movie to just consume outside of the story is just like otherworldly. It is truly an amazing feat of filmmaking. The pacing for a 2-hour and 45-minute movie is lightning fast. I mean, it just goes by. The second 2 times I saw it, when I was getting towards the latter half of the movie or the last third, I was like, we're already here. I felt like I've been in the theater for 25 minutes. I know some people I saw it with felt like it dragged a little bit, but I did not feel it at all any of the times that I watched it. It sort of goes without saying that across the board, the performances are amazing in the whole movie. I mean, Timothée Chalamet is surprising to say the least. I mean, I was kind of taken aback by his performance in this movie. I mean, it was pretty subdued in the first part, but he really shines here, I think. Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin, Stellan Skarsgård, Dave Bautista, Austin Butler. I mean, cast is stacked, and they all do a great job, I think. I think a huge pro of the movie is just how huge it feels. In the battle scenes, in the scenes where the tides are really turning, just in the story, it just feels in scale very large, and things really, there's a lot of weight to the events in the movie. So that's sort of my main pros. Overall, fantastic movie. That kind of goes without saying, I feel like. At the very least, good. But I want to get into what I didn't like about it, or what I felt like didn't work. In the beginning half of the movie, it feels like there are some scenes or key moments that are missing, which I feel like negatively affect the way the story flows. I was really looking for it on my third watch, and I felt like in that sort of pocket where it's right around the Harvester attack, in that sort of range where Paul is learning the ways of the Fremen, I felt like it could have used a little more. Wish we could have seen some more pushback, some push and pull when it came to Paul's journey being accepted into the Fremen. And it wasn't just so instant that he's accepted by them. And the other only real con I have is just, in something I funnily enough didn't feel with Oppenheimer, I did feel with this movie, is that I just felt like in the same way the cast is stacked and I think everybody's great, I feel like a part of the problem is that the cast is super stacked. At certain points it can feel kind of like, oh, I know who you are, your actor or actress that I recognize, and it kind of takes you out a little bit. I think the main example I have of this would be Christopher Walken as the Emperor. I just felt like he's such a specific actor, especially with his iconic voice, that to see him in a role like that, it kind of takes you out of it, and you're like, oh, you expect him to be like, hey, I'm the Emperor, and I don't like you, Mr. Atreides. Other than that, though, those are really my only 2 gripes with the movie, I think. Otherwise, it is exactly as I said. It is a feat of filmmaking, not just in and of itself, but in the context of where we're at in terms of modern movies, modern blockbuster movies. Anyway, yeah, that is my Dune Part 2 review. I felt like I said everything I wanted to say. That sucks. Well, here's audio of me saying that was my Dune Part 2 review. Great movie. I apologize if you keep seeing me kind of like dim and then get brighter every now and then. It's because my TV is playing the trailer behind me as sort of like a practical backdrop because green screens are overused. So I think that why Dune Part 2 works breaks down into two categories. You have, it takes itself seriously, and there was real passion behind the project that we see, the final product that we see. And I'm going to sort of delve into the subtopics of those two categories today. In terms of it taking itself seriously, I think part of what I mean by that is there's no tropey modern blockbuster like, he's right behind me, isn't he? Or like, oh, that sounded better in my head kind of humor. There's none of that. I feel like since sort of the advent of Marvel and like when that really blew up into the zeitgeist and like that was sort of the pinnacle of modern blockbusters, from that, the sort of Marvel brand of humor kind of was created and it's kind of inescapable now. When you go see like a modern blockbuster movie, it's everywhere, unfortunately. And I think sort of tying into that, when Dune Part 2 is having its serious moments, which there are a lot of, it retains that tension. It keeps it. It doesn't do what a lot of modern blockbusters nowadays do, where it breaks it up with this Marvel style humor, completely and totally disintegrating whatever tension there was in the serious moments in the movie. And that's not to say that, you know, it's just a downer the entire movie. There are moments of lightheartedness and brevity, but it's baked into the movie. The most pivotal example of humor in Dune Part 2 comes from Stilgar's character, played by Javier Bardem. It's not like jokes are being made in the movie. It's that the humor is just derived from his character and the way he is. It's not like he's making a joke and then it's funny. The humor is not shoehorned into the movie. The pacing of the movie is not broken up by whether or not a joke is being made in that moment. When it comes to the passion side of things, of why I think Dune Part 2 works so well, is Denis Villeneuve is extremely passionate about the source material of Dune and adapting that in a way that works for the cinema. And if you listen to interviews with him, he's been dreaming of this since he was like 15, and like he really does care about the final product of this movie. Going with that, also the cast and crew as well. You listen to any interviews with them talking about whether it's the actors talking about their performances, the editor Joe Walker talking about his work on it, or Greg Fraser. Any of these people, you listen to them and you can just hear in their voice and the way that they speak about their time on the film, how much they really care about it. It's not to say that on other modern blockbusters, you know, nobody cares or whatever. I'm not trying to make that point. I'm just saying when it comes to this movie, the people, everyone involved, it seeps out of the screen. You can just tell that so much passion and care was put into the crafting of this movie. I think a big reason why Dune Part 2 works so well in not just the context of the Dune franchise, but also in the context of just modern blockbusters, is that Denis Villeneuve wanted Dune Part 2 to be different. He wanted it to be a challenge. I was listening to an interview on IndieWire's Filmmaker Toolkit. Say that 10 times fast. That was stupid, I'm sorry. I was listening to an interview with him, and he was talking to the interviewer about how he really wanted Dune Part 2 not only to be starkly different from the first part, but also challenge him. Here's a clip of that.
It's like the first one was meant to be more meditative, contemplative. It's a movie about a boy discovering a new world, a new culture, falling in love with it. In the second one, it's this boy becomes a man, taken into action, becomes a master of his own fate. So it's definitely a much more muscular approach. It's a movie with a different kind of rhythm, inner rhythm, and it's much more of an action movie. And it's like, for me, I would say it's the idea to create to destabilize the audience right from the start, and to create a shock, aesthetic shock, that will convey the idea. Nothing has to be taken for granted. My production designer and I wanted to make sure that there will be never a feeling of deja vu, that the movie will always unfold something new in front of the audience, that all the sets were new, and even the landscape. We made sure to not revisit the same areas, to find new areas in the desert, to visit new deserts, just to have that. It's a second part of the same story, but I wanted to make a movie that has that kind of autonomous aesthetic, and that will be for the people who have seen Part 1 will be as exciting as you were seeing a new movie.
So what can major studios take away from the success of Dune Part 2? Well, let the director and all the people involved achieve the vision that they want. And also, don't be afraid to release movies that have a serious and dark and very real tone to them that leave something for the audience to take away from. Stop treating audiences like they're stupid and they just want brainless Marvel crap, because they don't want, nope. It's very much reflected in the box office performance of something like Madame Web versus Dune, what people want to see. And they want to see something that leaves them feeling a certain type of way. So yeah, that's that.